We are that you guys are coming down here to Australia for this tour. So how are you feeling about it as well?
I'm really looking forward to it. It's been hanging on this tour. I mean, we've been there before, but this tour was originally going to be a couple of years back, and then the pandemic happened, and it's been postponed 2 or 3 times since then. So finally come together. So we're looking forward to it.
Like you said, you have been here before and you have so many fans here in Australia. I know that I grew up listening to your music in our household because of my father. Have you always had that love affair with Australia, and have you always known how popular the band has been here with Australian music fans?
Yeah, well, the original Animals we never actually made it to Australia in the '60s. I think Eric did in the late '60s with his band called the New Animals after the original band broke up. So it wasn't until the '90s that I finally got to be there, and I fell in love with the place. I think if I'd been there in the '60s, I would have moved house. I love the vibe.
Yeah. What made you fall in love with Australia? Was it, like, as you said, there was a vibe, but was it the people? Was it the beauty of the country? What was it?
All of that. The people, the hospitality's absolutely lovely, and venue is good. Weather, compared with with England, lots of things. There's just a nice, good attitude about Australians. I find, generally a very, very welcome and hospitable place.
How did you find the crowds? Because I know a lot of bands from the 60s right through to today, when they first come to Australia and start doing shows, they say that the Australian crowds are the craziest and the wildest crowds they've ever played in front of. How have you found the crowds in Australia over the years?
Well, we get such a mixture, we're all getting on a bit, and so we get a mixture of fans from way back to young people who've just been listening to that music all their lives, and they just want to check it out and see what it's like on live on stage. So it's a big variety. I don't think we start riots, mind you. We just have enthusiastic. We do get enthusiastic audiences, and we always end up with a standing ovation. So we must be doing something right. So that's about us. But there's no riots.
Yeah, no. Oh, when I meant crazy and wild, I just meant that the things that go on at shows. I remember talking to one band at one stage, and they said Australia is the only country we've ever been to where we've seen a person in a wheelchair crowd surfing. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, the nearest I've seen to that was 2 crutches being waved in the air. I mean, what was the guy standing on?
Yeah, I know. John, we talked about like different generations loving your music and it meaning different things to different people. I think We've Got to Get Out of This Place is a classic example of that. It became an anthem for people during the Vietnam War, and for people of my generation, it was the song that used to get played on the school loudspeakers as we were heading out to holidays every year. So songs like that have a very different meaning for different people. Is that what you've found over the years when you've met fans of all different ages?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's I mean, back in I don't know, 80s and 90s, there was quite a strong movement called Vietnam Vets of America, I think it was called, and we played a few of them. So they were there because they remembered it from the Vietnam War. But as you say, it's just become an anthem in all sorts of ways. People leaving school, people changing their job, people just going on holiday, and whatever. There's people all over the world singing it somewhere,
Yeah, well, it always meant a lot to me because I hated school. So when I heard that song, it meant that I was being released from this prison that I basically saw school of for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, everybody seems to have a story that connects with that song. It's just one of those things that it's just an all-time classic. That's one of the things about just about all of the Animals catalogue, I find that the songs have never, they've never become corny or they've never become just forgettable. They're strong songs. I always call them grown-up rock.
Yeah.
It's kind of there's a dark edge to them, and it means they've got legs. Everybody can identify some along with "It's My Life" and "Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood" and "We Got to Get Out of This Place." All those songs seem to have something that touches people.
When you recorded them, did you think that they would be tracks that 40, 50 years down the tracks people would still be listening to and having as favourites?
Hell no. No, back then, I mean, the attitude was, you record a song, and if you're lucky, it goes up the charts and hits whatever number, and then goes all the way back down again, and they think, oh, well, that's the end of that song. And never occurred to us that the longevity of those songs, it still boggles me today to think, wow, people have got these songs in their heads that they weren't even born when these songs were recorded, and yet they know all the words, they sing along, they identify with them,
Do you, I shouldn't say do you, I should say how many requests do you get for those tracks to be used in films and video games and things like that every year now?
Oh, they still pop up all over the place. The record company that owns the stuff in the USA, for instance, they frequently send links to say, we've got this on there and this on here and this on there. Yeah, they seem to be constantly being picked up on. We even had a James Bond film, with our recording of Boom Boom. I forget which one it was now, Skyfall or something like that. So yeah, they pop up all over the place.
What does that mean to you as an artist? Because, of course, we saw what happened with Kate Bush this year with Stranger Things picking up, Running Up the Hill, and it going back to #1 in the UK and right around the world. What does that mean to you when, like a Bond film picks up one of your tracks and plays it years later? Does that mean a lot to you?
Oh, yeah, it's a big thrill, you think, bloody hell, that's cool. The song we used to knock out live, and then you go into the studio to record a particular track, and while you're there, you think, well, we could do this and that and the other. We used to record like that, we used to always record an extra 2 or 3 numbers, and while we were there, and Boom Boom was one of those songs, and the next thing you know, years and years later, it's featured in a James Bond movie. It makes you go, wow. You never know what life's going to throw at you,
And how do you feel when you hear a band cover one of your tracks? Because, of course, I know that House of the Rising Sun, even when you did it, was a cover, but other bands over the years have covered your tracks. How has that made you feel when you hear other bands cover your tracks?
I feel all right about it. I think it's a compliment, I mean, House of the Rising Sun was a public domain. Anybody could record it because it was an old folk song that didn't have any known author. So, Bob Dylan's version of it was a cover, and we nicked the idea from Bob Dylan's first album. We thought that's a great song, and we kind of, instead of doing it, he did it purely acoustic, and we just kind of gave it the electric shock treatment, and boom, we had #1 all over the world. So, yeah, but when other people, I mean, people often say that's the definitive version of that song, same as with We Got to Get Out of This Place, and It's My Life, and Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, and things. But, yeah, they're good songs, and it's a compliment to us, I think, that we made such a good job of it, that people want to have put their own twist to it,
What was it about House of the Rising Sun that made that a track that you wanted to cover? Like you said, that was the track that made the Animals a worldwide name. What was it about that track that made you decide, I want to do this track?
We just loved the song. As I say, we I think it was 61 and 62. I think when Eric and me first heard the version on Bob Dylan's album, and we just loved it from the start. And it really came together when we were kicking it around. We got signed up with the Don Arden Agency in early 1964. And we got a record contract with Mickey Most, and then we were signed up to support Chuck Berry on his first visit to the UK. So there's Chuck Berry, there's Carl Perkins, who wrote Blue Suede Shoes, great country man, and some other bands. And when we're sort of picking over the songs we wanted to put in the set, it was Chas Chandler, the original bass player of the Animals, who then became the producer and manager of Jimi Hendrix, and then after that Slade. So he had a pretty good CV. But back then, it was his idea. He said, everybody's going to be playing rock and roll on that tour. Chuck Berry, Carl Perkins, the National Teens, all the others on the show. And we should be doing something that's a contrast. He must have had his business head on even then, and he said that's worth doing. So we said, okay. So we put the song in the set, and it was going down. You could tell it was something special by the audience reaction to it,
Yeah.
And so we arranged a little recording session in the middle of the tour. We had to do it in the middle of the night because we're playing Liverpool one night and Southampton the next night. So we had this little studio that we'd done our first single in, and it was really primitive, just a mono thing. It didn't have any sophisticated 24-track stuff then. There was none of that. So it was basically just we went into the room, set up, played a few bars to get the balance right for the engineer, and then we made a take. One single take, because we didn't have a lot of time. And Mickey Most said, come in and listen to this. So we trooped into the control room and got the playback. And Mickey said, that is a hit record. He was good at that. He could pick hits. And we said, oh, cool. Yeah, good. We thought it was good too. But anyway, the engineer turned around from the desk and he said, you'll never get it played on the BBC. It's 4 minutes, 35 seconds long. It's, and Mickey, this is exactly what he said. He said, he had to think, and he said, the hell with that. We're in the final age now. We're going to go with it, So there we are. We had the first single that went beyond the 2.5, 3 minutes limit of the time. But the first crossover folk rock single. And when we later met up with Bob Dylan in New York, he'd just been in the studio recording his first sort of electric folk instead of acoustic. And we went out on a book crawl with him in Greenwich Village, and he told us that he'd heard our song, and he was driving along in his car listening to the radio, heard our version of House of the Rising Sun, and he said it was a light bulb moment. He thought, that's where I should go. Wow. So he immediately started some recording sessions, and the result of that was like a Rolling Stone, which I think was 7 or 8 minutes long.
Wow.
It was also electric.
Your songs have inspired so many people, as you mentioned there, but also your sound has inspired a lot of people too. And one of the things that always hit me about your sound when I was growing up was that it was so different to the other music that my dad was listening to at that time. How did you come to that sound? Like I said, that sound was so different to what everybody else was doing at that time. How did that sound evolve to the point where you were at that time?
It was purely accidental. It was just the way we sort of got together as young guys in the 50s and started, playing around. And there was always a sort of slightly jazz element. I was always a big jazz fan anyway, so those two kind of swing rather than straight down the middle rock. And Alan Price on keyboards was a very two-handed player, a lot of boogie, so there was always that kind of boogie jazz feeling to the Animals stuff, as well as the sort of more conventional, hit records. A lot of the stuff we have on B-sides and the album tracks is just pure jazz,
Definitely, yeah. And John, I know we're running out of time very, very quickly, so I'm just skipping a few questions here, but what does it mean to you being able to get out and play live again after what we've been through over the last few years? I mean, the last few years must have been something that you would never have guessed that you would have gone through your career in music. So what's it like being able to get out there and play live again?
such a relief. You know, I mean, like everybody else, it feels as though we've been robbed of 2 years of our life almost. You know, so you know, our agent was talking about. You know, in the UK, setting up a tour, a sort of farewell tour. And this was back before the pandemic, you know. And I thought, well, maybe I've got a few years left in me yet, though, you know. And then the pandemic hit, and since we're starting to get back to work again, I think I've got 2 years. I've got to get back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep on. I'm going to keep on doing it as long as I feel well and fit. Play and not make a fool of myself, you know. So, which is, I'm finding I'm really enjoying being back on the road again.
Definitely. I think one of the things that I've felt is I'll never ever take live music for granted again. I think I'm 42 now, and I've been going to live shows since I was 13, and you would just go to 1 or 2 shows every week. It was what you did, and you kind of took it for granted in the end. I don't think I'll ever take live music for granted again.
Absolutely not. It was horrible, wasn't it? Just to be, you know, restricted, so restricted. And since the relaxation has come and everybody's got their jobs and they're feeling things are getting back to normal, we've been having a great time. You know, we've been doing a lot of European gigs, and it's just been so much fun. And yeah, so well, as I say, I've got a few years left in me yet, so I'm going to make the most of them.
Definitely. Well, John, I know we are right out of time, so I'll just finish with one quick question. What would you like to say to all of your fans out there who are about to see you guys play live in Australia once again?
Oh, so looking forward to it. I mean, I love playing Australia. I love the vibe of the place and the hospitality, the friendliness, the food. But we're gonna be playing a really, you know, we play what we do, which is in your face live music with a lot of heart. We're not a cabaret band. We're not a show band. We're just an R&B band with and we just like to knock it out and enjoy ourselves, you know.
Awesome.